I think I screwed up. 32 years old male, have been married to my wife, 30 years old female for 5 years. And it feels like in the last year she's become a stranger. We were both established when we met. I went to a trade school for a technical job and worked my way up from entry-level positions, building a reputation in coding. My wife has a graduate degree and works in management. So we were both doing well when we got married. At first, it felt like we shared the same values. I always had complaints about middle management in the tech industry, how they created unnecessary roadblocks, set impossible deadlines, and promised features that developers had no way of delivering. My wife, however, saw the value of middle management in directing people and resources. I used to vent to her about the latest clueless manager I had to deal with, but she always sided with them. "He sees things you don't," she'd say. It started to make me feel like she resented me for not pursuing a graduate degree, something she often hinted at before we married. She dropped the topic when I explained the financial burden it would bring, and we agreed to focus on building our careers. 2 years ago, I switched jobs to a company with an owner who actually saw my potential. I now make 50% more than my wife, and my new manager is someone I actually enjoy working with. He's not a technical lead, but does his job well and knows how to manage people without micromanaging. For the first 4 years of our marriage, things were great. We went on regular date nights, shared hobbies, and communicated well. When the lockdown hit, we both worked from home, but our work setups couldn't have been more different. I dressed for work every day to maintain a productive mindset, while she rolled out of bed in a t-shirt and sweatpants, checking emails between games of Candy Crush. We were on different pages, but I didn't think much of it at first. She had her meetings, I had mine. I kept my office door shut to stay focused, but she insisted I was being secretive. It made her upset, and I didn't know how to address it. I tried to keep up with our hobbies, but she wasn't interested. To her, being in the same house all day was enough. Then, things started getting worse. When her office reopened partially, she jumped at the chance to return, while my company kept remote work in place. I wasn't thrilled by her sudden eagerness to be away, but I understood. The real problem began when she started staying late after work to hang out with coworkers. They would go out for drinks, and when I tried to ask her about it, she was secretive, which only made me more suspicious. She became colder, more distant, and our relationship slowly turned into what felt like a roommate situation. One day, she asked me to wipe her old iPad so she could gift it to her niece. I didn't think twice, but when I turned it on, I found something that turned my world upside down. There were messages, pictures, and videos between her and her boss, detailing a 2-month affair. I couldn't believe it. The shock of it all was paralyzing. I immediately copied everything and started looking for a lawyer. At that point, I didn't even know how to confront her. I didn't say anything right away. My lawyer suggested keeping quiet, gathering more evidence, and starting the divorce process slowly. The more I thought about it, the more numb I became. She was indifferent to the state of our relationship, and the distance between us only made it easier to stay calm. I had to wait. 4 weeks later, the lawyer had all the evidence he needed. We were ready for a divorce filing. Then, one night, I snapped. She came home late as usual, and something in me just snapped. I confronted her, accusing her of having an affair with her boss. At first, she turned nasty, claiming I wasn't emotionally available and that I spent all day lounging around while she worked hard. She belittled me for not having the intellect she thought I should have, despite my technical expertise. She laughed off my threat to file for divorce, saying I would never leave her and that she would get half my paycheck, regardless. I wasn't prepared for the coldness in her response, but it only fueled my anger. She told me, "This is the 21st century. A woman can have her cake and eat it too." I snapped back, "That's not a marriage." She laughed and went to bed. I called in sick to work, and that night I planned my revenge. The next day, I spoke to my lawyer, who strongly advised against any form of public revenge, explaining how it could impact my case. But I was determined. My lawyer reluctantly agreed to help me serve her with divorce papers in the most memorable way possible. I had a custom cake made with an image of her and her boss in a tight embrace. The words, "Here's your cake, eat it," iced on top. The process server took it to her office, where she was chatting with co-workers. When the box was opened, the cake was there, the image unmistakable. My wife freaked out. People in her office saw the cake and started berating her. She swatted the box off the table, and it made a scene. The process server made a quick exit, but I knew it would be unforgettable for her. After that, my phone blew up with messages from her. I ignored them all. She hasn't come home since, and her mother texted me, saying my wife would be staying with her. The high of seeing her reaction to the cake was sweet, but it wore off quickly. My lawyer's advice was clear. Don't let emotions cloud my judgment. Still, I couldn't help but feel satisfaction in my revenge. Later that day, I got a message from my wife. She wanted to meet and talk. I agreed, but only if we did it with a lawyer present. She reluctantly agreed, and I had mutual friends come with me, each with their phones recording. When we met, she was surprisingly apologetic. She admitted that her co-workers had manipulated her, feeding her ideas about how she deserved more than I could give her. The ringleader of the group had convinced her that I was intimidated by educated people and that she needed someone more assertive in her life. She claimed that her affair was driven by the pressure these women put on her. But it was clear. This was not a simple mistake. She was asking for help to deal with the blackmail from her co-workers who were demanding money to keep quiet. They had told her if she didn't pay up, they would go to HR. I listened, but I told her it was too late. There was no going back. The betrayal was too much. If she wanted any hope of saving herself, she needed to report her actions to HR and deal with her mess head on. I told her I couldn't help her beyond that. As for us, it was over. There was no going back. She asked what that meant for our future, and I simply said, "There is no us." She looked at the cake, still sitting in the back of my mind as a symbol of the end of everything we once had. I told her, "I'm already seeing someone to deal with all this." She left after that. No word on whether she will follow my advice or pay the blackmailers, but at least I'm moving on. My lawyer is handling everything from here. I've protected my assets, changed my accounts, and I'm seeing a therapist to help with the emotional aftermath. Whatever happens next, I know that revenge might have been sweet, but it's not going to fix what's broken. The damage is done. Now it's time to move forward.